Alright guys, I am back again with another deck profile for Cardfight Vanguard Deer Days on Nintendo Switch. This time we got version 1 of my Keter Sanctuary Youthberk RevolDress deck. So of course version 1, everything through the first additional card pass, so through D-Booster Set 7. And this deck focuses on the RevolDress ability, which allows you to superior ride one of Youthberk's RevolForms during your battle phase to give you an extra Vanguard attack, and essentially lets you do sort of a Kamen Rider style form change to allow your Vanguard to attack again. So as always, we will be going through the deck and then we'll show it off in one card fight. So starting first with the ride deck, we have our grade 0 starter, which is Youth Following in Footsteps Youth. So once rode upon, if you in second, draw a card. Standard D-Series starter, like always. Next, for the grade 1, we have Determined to Break Away Youth. So he has a continuous ability when he's on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle. That says, during the battle this unit attacked, this unit gets power plus 2,000. So, very basic power-up skill. And then he also has his auto ability that says, when this unit is rode upon by Knight of Ardent Light Youth, you can Soul Blast 1 to look at the top 3 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with Youthberk and its card name from among them and reveal it and put it into your hand, or choose up to 1 grade 2 or less unit card from among them, call it to Rearguard Circle, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So pretty good ability, letting you check the top 3 for either a Youthberk to put into your hand or any unit to call to your field. It could end badly, of course, if you check the top 3 and they're all like triggers or something that you don't want to call. But most of the time you will find something that you'll either want to put into your hand or call onto your field. So a little bit of an RNG factor there, but pretty good ability. Next, for the grade 2, we have Knight of Ardent Light Youth. So its auto ability says, when this unit is rode upon by a unit with the RevolDress ability, you can Counterblast 1 to choose a grade 2 or greater card from your drop and put it into your hand. So letting you recycle any grade 2 or higher back from your drop. You can put anything that you discarded for your ride deck. You could potentially put a grade 2 that maybe you called out and had to intercept away, or your opponent retired or whatever. So simple skill, but pretty good since it's a Counterblast 1 for a +1. And then he also has a second auto ability that's active on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle that says, when this unit is boosted, you can Soul Blast 1 and this unit gets power plus 5,000 until the end of that battle. So this guy never ends up on Rearguard Circle really. If you put a booster behind him when he's your Vanguard, you can use this skill. It's kind of up to you whether you want to, because this deck builds a lot of soul, but it builds it all late game. So early game, when you would be using this skill, your soul actually can get kind of tight if you use some of the other Soul Blast abilities in your first turn or two. So depending on whether or not you have a better use for that soul at the moment, you may or may not want to use that ability. But if you have the extra resource and you want to go for it, that is some extra power to strengthen your turn too. So then we have our grade 3, which is Youthberk Skyfall Arms. So first off, he does have his RevolDress auto ability that says, at the end of the battle this unit attacked, you can choose up to 1 card with RevolForm and its card name from your hand, write it as stand, and it gets drive -2 until end of turn. So this is the key ability of the deck, letting Youthberk form change into one of his RevolForms and attack again. The new Vanguard does get drive -2, so you won't get any extra drive checks, at least not naturally. We do have some other abilities that can grant us extra drive checks. But still, it does give you that 4th attack, as well as letting you use the abilities of whatever RevolForm you go into, and potentially triggering the abilities of some of your rear guards as well. So definitely a vital skill for the deck. And then additionally, he also has his Activate ability that says, once per turn, you can discard a card from your hand to look at the top 3 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with RevolForm and its card name from among them, and reveal it and put it into your hand, or choose up to 1 grade 2 or less card from among them, call it to Rearguard Circle, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So again, another good ability, helping you either fill in some spots in your field or get a RevolForm into your hand in order to be able to use the RevolDress later that turn. So very helpful ability. It's not a plus since you have to discard in order to use it, although we do have a card you can combo with this ability to turn it into a plus. So still very helpful in helping you dig out the pieces that you need. So that is the ride deck. Moving on to the main deck. First off, for the grade 3s, we do have our 3 additional copies of Youthberk Skyfall Arms, double frame rear, of course, who is here for our Persona ride. So next up, we have our first RevolForm, which is 4 copies of Youthberk RevolForm Tempest. So he has an auto ability that says when this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle by the RevolDress ability, all of your front row units get power plus 5,000 until end of turn. Then you can counterblast 1 and reveal the top 2 cards of your deck. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards with the same grade as any of the revealed cards and put it on the bottom of their deck. And then you put all of the revealed cards into your hand. So this is an extremely powerful ability, powering up your entire front row, as well as letting you effectively draw 2 cards, on top of possibly bottom decking one of your opponent's rear guards. The bottom deck is kind of random chance, since it does depend on what you reveal off the top of your deck, as well as what your opponent happens to have out on their board at the moment. So you may or may not get that part of the skill, but even without that, a counterblast 1 for a +2 into your hand is very good, especially since the process of RevolDressing is inherently a -1 since it is a ride. So it's still very good either way, and you get the power up even without having to pay the cost. So definitely a very powerful skill. This is usually the RevolForm I try to go into first on turn 3, since it's usually the best one to go into at that point. And then he also has a second auto ability that says at the end of your turn, you choose a card with the RevolDress ability from your soul and write it as rest. So all the RevolForms have the same auto ability. It just lets you reset back into Skyfall Arms at the end of your turn, setting you up to be able to RevolDress again the next turn without having to re-ride from your hand. So next up, we have 2 copies of Youthberk RevolForm Gust. So his auto ability says when this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle by the RevolDress ability, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can discard a card from your hand, and this unit gets power plus 10,000, drive plus 1 until end of turn. So again, a very powerful ability. This one does let you gain an extra drive for your second Vanguard attack. If you combo it with Sequana, which is one of our grade 1s, you can actually end up with twin drive, giving you a total of 4 drive checks that turn. Now, this ability does require your opponent to be at grade 3, so if you go first and RevolDress into this on turn 3 while your opponent's still at grade 2, then he's pretty much completely vanilla. So you definitely want to try to avoid that and go into one of the other RevolForms in that instance. But any other time besides that, he can be a pretty good choice to go into. And then, of course, he also has the same auto ability as Tempest that lets you re-ride back into Skyfall Arms at the end of the turn. So then lastly for our grade 3s, we have 1 copy of Youthberk RevolForms Zest. So this is our last RevolForm. And his auto ability says when this unit is placed on Vanguard Circle by the RevolDress ability, until end of turn, this unit gets power plus 15,000, and if you Persona Road this turn, it gets critical plus 1. So some people actually don't bother running this RevolForm at all. I do like keeping it at a 1-of in the deck, since this ability can be useful in some cases. First of all, it is cost free, so if you're running low on resources or whatever, this can be a good one to go into. It does require you to get your Persona ride off in order to take full advantage of his effect. So if you go into it on turn 3, obviously you won't be able to get the crit. Or if you miss your Persona ride later, you won't get the crit either. But he will still get the power, no matter what. So still being a minimum of a 28k swing, potentially with one drive check if you combo with Sequana as well. Sometimes that's all you need, and if you do get your Persona ride, he'll be at a minimum of 38,002 crits, again possibly with +1 drive, and possibly with more power on top of that if you combo him with some of your rear guard skills. So a little bit more situational of a RevolForm to go into, but he can still be very powerful in the right situation. And again, he has the same auto ability as the others that lets you ride back into Skyfall arms during the end phase. So that is all the grade 3s. Moving on to the grade 2s. First off, we have 4 copies of Knight of Fracture Schneisel. So his first auto ability says when this unit is placed on rear guard circle, you can counterblast 1 to look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Choose up to 1 grade 3 card with Youthberk and its card name from among them, reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck, and this unit gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So this ability can whiff. If you check the top 5 and you don't find a Youthberk, then you won't get anything out of it. It's a little bit more likely to whiff than some of the other abilities in this deck that lets you check the top whatever, since he doesn't give you the option to also call a rearguard. It only lets you add the Youthberk to your hand. But he does let you potentially search out one of your RevolForms or one of your Persona Ride copies to set you up for the next turn. And he will get the power gain even if you don't add a card to your hand. So even if you get unlucky and don't find any Youthberks in the top 5, the counterblast isn't totally wasted because you at least get the power up out of it. So obviously it sucks when that does whiff, but it's not a complete waste of resources like it is with some abilities. But then he also has a second auto skill that says when this unit attacks a Vanguard, if your Vanguard was placed this turn by riding from a grade 3, you choose one of your Vanguards and it gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So pretty good power up skill, giving your Vanguard an extra 5k. All you have to do is ride on top of a grade 3, so if you RevolDress, then this ability will trigger, or if you Persona Road that turn and you attack with him before you attack with your Vanguard, then you can still power up your first Vanguard attack with that as well. So depending on the situation, it can affect your attack order, but either way he will give that extra power to your Vanguard. So next up we have 2 copies of Knight of Tempestuousness, Freed. So her continuous ability is active on Guardian Circle. That says if you have a Vanguard with Youth in its card name, this unit gets shield plus 5,000. So she's just a 10k shield, very basic ability for this deck, but having that extra guard power is always nice. Plus also Booba, which is a completely valid reason to run a card, as far as I'm concerned. So lastly for the grade 2s, we do have 2 copies of Knight of Rendering Flash, Carbra. Again, I'm trying my best with these names, I think that's how you say that. But anyway, he's got his auto ability that says when this unit is placed on rear guard circle, you can counterblast 1 and soul blast 1 to look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Choose a card from among them, reveal it, call it to rear guard circle if it is a grade 2 or less unit card, and put it into your hand if it is not, and then shuffle your deck. So again, another ability similar to a lot of the others in this deck, letting you check the top 3 and either call a grade 2 or lower to your rear guard circle, or if you find an order card or a grade 3, you can put it into your hand. So again, he can get a Youthberk into your hand. He can get an order into your hand, which we are running 1 normal order in this deck, as well as Sanctitude, of course. So you can potentially add those to your hand as well. Or if you find a good rear guard, you can call them out to your field. Now again, he might whiff if you find, like 3 triggers or 2 triggers and a perfect guard or something, and you might end up having to call something that you don't necessarily want on your field. But most of the time, he can just be a good way to dig for your combo pieces yet again. So that's all the grade 2s. Moving on to the grade 1s. First off, we have 4 copies of Witch of Accumulation, Sequana. So she's got her continuous ability that says during your turn, if you have a Vanguard with Youthberk in its card name, this unit gets power plus 2,000. So basic power-up skill, but lets her be a 10k body on your board as soon as you hit grade 3. And then she also has her auto ability, which is her main skill, that says when your unit is placed on Vanguard Circle by the RevolDress ability, you can put this unit into your soul to choose one of your Vanguards and increase or decrease its drive to 1 until end of turn. So this is a very powerful ability for this deck. Every time you RevolDress, you can shove her into your soul to give your Vanguard an extra drive. So that is a ±0 since you're losing a rearguard but gaining a drive check. But it does give you another chance for a trigger. It makes your attack a little bit more threatening. And if you combo this with Gust, like I said, you can get 4 drive checks on that one turn. Now, one thing to keep in mind with that is you do want to be sure to resolve Sequana's ability first when that happens, since both those have the same timing. Sequana's ability sets your drive to 1, and Gust's ability gives you drive +1. So you want to make sure you resolve Sequana's first in order to get your drive to 2, because if you resolve Gust first, then Sequana's basically won't do anything. So keep that in mind, but still, regardless of which RevolForm you go into, this is a very, very powerful card for the deck. And also, once again, Booba. So next we have 2 copies of Wayward Therapy Angel. So she has a continuous ability that says this card cannot be ridden and cannot be normal called to rearguard circle from hand. So this is just a restrictive ability since she is a printed 10k base grade 1. But she has her auto ability that says when this card is discarded from hand during your turn, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can Soul Blast 1 and call this card to a back row rearguard circle. So while you can't normal call her, you can superior call her off her own ability, or with, any of the things that let you superior call from the deck. But her ability does activate when she is discarded from your hand, so if you drop her for your grade 3 ride from your ride deck, you can immediately use her skill and just call her back to rearguard. If you discard her off of Skyfall Arm's activate ability, you can get her right back, essentially changing the cost for that ability from a discard 1 to a Soul Blast 1. Or if you discard her for RevolForm Gust's ability during the battle phase, you can superior call her during the battle phase as well, and again turn his skill into a +1. Now she does have to superior call herself to a back row rearguard circle, so you can't get an extra rearguard attack out of that, but it can give you an extra booster for one of your attacks, and again help with your card advantage. So very, very helpful card. So next up we have 1 copy of Enucleate Angel. So her auto ability is when your Vanguard is placed by riding from a grade 3, you can Soul Blast 1 and retire this unit. To countercharge 1, choose one of your Vanguards and it gets power plus 5,000 until end of turn. So your RevolDressing will trigger that ability since it is placing your Vanguard by riding on top of a grade 3. It does give you the countercharge option for the deck, which this deck can get kind of counterblast heavy sometimes, especially if you use a lot of your rearguard skills or your RevolDress into Tempest repeatedly. So having the countercharge option can be helpful. She does retire herself to get that countercharge, but she also gives power to your Vanguard, strengthening that attack. And you gotta watch depending on which RevolForm you go into and be sure to do things in the right order to maximize the effectiveness. But if you attack with a rearguard and boost with her first, then she would have already done her job at that point. So retiring her won't interfere with your offense in any way. This ability can also be triggered during the end phase when you superior ride back into Skyfall Arms to get the countercharge then to set you up for your next turn. If you go with that, of course, the power gain to your Vanguard will be wasted at that point. Alternatively, if she can survive your opponent's turn and you Persona Ride during your ride phase the next turn, you can also trigger her skill then and get the countercharge before your main phase. So depending on the situation, you might want to activate this ability at different times in order to get the most out of it. So next for our grade 1s, we just have our Sentinels, which is 3 copies of Aegis Mayor Dragon. Just your standard perfect art. As well as, of course, 1 copy of the Blitz Order Elementaria Sanctitude, which you can play without paying the cost if your opponent's Vanguard has triple drive. So then lastly, for the grade 1s, we do have one copy of the normal order, Departure Towards the Dawn. So you can play this with a Counterblast 1, and it lets you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to one card with a RevolForm and its card name from among them, and reveal it and put it in your hand. Or choose up to one grade 2 or less card from among them, call it a rearguard circle, and shuffle your deck. So again, very similar to the other skills in this deck, letting you search out a RevolForm to get into your hand, or a unit to get onto your field. This isn't really a vital card for the deck. I am mostly just running it because I really like the artwork. So if you want to replace this with another unit to, be able to fill in your board easier or something, you can. But I do like having this at 1, since it's just another option to dig through your deck and find your necessary pieces. So that's all the grade 1s. Moving on to the grade 0s, we just have our trigger lineup, which is 7 crit, 4 draw, 4 heal, and 1 over. So starting first with the crit triggers, we do have 4 copies of Volition Rigger Dragon, just your vanilla crit. Additionally, we have 3 copies of Blade Feather Dragon, your crit with a skill. At the end of the battle it boosted, you can put it into your soul to choose one of your units, and it gets power plus 2,000 until end of turn. So it can be a useful skill if you have to superior call it off of any of your top deck skills. It can be not totally vanilla on your board and can turn itself into another resource. Even though usually we don't have too many soul problems with this deck, with between Sequana's skill and the RevolDress adding extra cards to your soul. But still, it can be an option. If you want to run 4 of this and 3 of the vanilla crits, you can, but I'm just doing it this way. So next up for the draws, we have 4 copies of Protection Magic Prorobi. So draw with a skill. If your opponent's Vanguard's grade 3 or greater, she gets shield plus 5,000. So your 10k shield draw trigger. And then for the heals, we have 4 copies of Recuperate Angel. Just the vanilla heal. Again, if you want to run any of the effect heals, you can. So then lastly for our over trigger, we have Light Dragon Deity of Honors, Amartanoa. So his additional effect says until end of turn, you also perform drive checks for the battles your rearguards attack. So extra drive checks, always a good thing. This card isn't necessarily as potent in this deck as it is in some, since you shouldn't really ever end up with any grade 3 rearguards unless you're desperate and have to like call a RevolForm to rearguard or something. Most of the time all your front row rearguards are going to be grade 2s. So that means you're only going to get an extra 2 drive checks out of this at most of the time. But still, any extra trigger chances and any extra pluses to your hand is always still a good thing. So that is the deck. So we will go ahead and have our one fight with it. And let's see, we'll fight Toya, since that would be fitting for this deck. And we will be going second.
Stand up, Vanguard! Stand and draw. Light! Turn in. Ore no turn. Draw.
Alright, so we'll go ahead and drop that Persona Ride copy actually, since we can get it back later anyway. And then we'll use our starter skill to draw. So then we'll just go ahead and attack. And we get a draw trigger. Oh, and he gets a draw trigger as well.
Stand and draw. Light. Skill発動.
And then his superior calls his front trigger.
ヴァンガードにアタック
So we'll let that one through.
ノーガードドライブチェックチェックザダメージ
There goes Zest.
ターンエンドスタンドアンドドロー
Alright, so let's discard one of these draws
ライ
to ride. And then we'll use our grade 1 Youth's ability, the Soul Blast. And we'll check the top 3. And we do not find any RevolForms, but we do find some good rear guards. So we will Superior Call Sequana to our back row center.
ペリオルコール
And then the other 2 go to the bottom of the deck. So then, let's see, we'll go ahead and call Schneisel
コール
and use his skill
スキル発動
to Counter Blast. And check the top 5 this time. And unfortunately, we do not find any Youthberks.
パワー
So nothing goes to our hand, but we do get the power gain. So we will go ahead and call Vreed as well over here. And I think that is all for now. So we will go ahead and attack with Vreed first.
ヴァンガードにアタックノーガードまだだダメージチェック
So then we'll attack with our Vanguard.
ヴァンガードにアタッ
And we'll go ahead and use Youth's ability to Soul Blast
クスキル発動
and gain the extra 5k.
パワープラスノーガードチェックザドライブまだだダメージチェック
And then lastly, we'll attack with
ヴァン
Schneisel.
ガードにアタックノーガード
And we'll let that through too.
まだだダメージチェックスカルトリガーだ
And he got a crit trigger that is wasted.
パワープラスターンエンド俺のターンドロー頂きの天帝バスティオンにライドスキル発動だコールスキル発動だステリオルコールコールヴァンガードにアタックだ
So let's see, we need 10 to block that, so I think we'll go ahead and intercept that with Vreed.
インターセプトヴァンガードにアタックだ
And we'll let that one through.
ノーガードドライブチェック
He got a grade 3, so he will get to restand. But he got no triggers.
覚悟はできたかチェックザダメージここが戦場だと知れパワープラスヴァンガードにアタックスキル発動パワープラス
And we'll let that one through too.
ノーガードチェックザダメージクリティカルトリガー
And we get a crit trigger.
クリティカルプラスパワープラスヴァンガードにアタック
And we'll guard that one with a straw.
ガードターンエンド俺のターンドロー
Alright, so let's discard Carbra
天を落とす時が来たユースベルクにライド
to ride Youthberk Skyfall Arms.
スキル
And then our
発動
grade 2 will let us Counter Blast and add a grade 2 or greater from our drop back to our hand. So let's see, we'll add that Persona Ride. So then, let's see, we'll go ahead and call Vreed back over here. And I think that's actually all for now. So we will go ahead and attack with the Vanguard first. He guards with his over trigger. So now we can RevolDress into Youthberk RevolForm Tempest. So now we'll resolve Sequana's skill and put her into our soul to gain a drive check. And then resolve Tempest's skill to power up our front rope and counterblast. And we reveal the top two, which is a grade 2 and a grade 1, which unfortunately he does not have any of on his field. So we don't get to bottom deck any of his units, but we do get 2 more cards into our hand. So now we can attack with Schneisel. And I'm actually going to attack into his rear guard. So then we'll attack with Tempest, who does get 1 drive check. Perfect guards. So then we'll attack with Vreed, and I think I'm going to take out his other rear guard too, actually. Try to weaken his board for next turn. So then Tempest skill lets us ride back into Skyfall arms. And let's see, we just need 5 to block this, so I think I will intercept with Schneisel. And we need 10 to block that, so I think I'll intercept that with Vreed, actually. And I'll let that one through. Oh, and he gets a crit trigger. So that's going to put us to 5. And he did get his grade 3, so he'll get his restands as well. We got a draw trigger, so we'll give that power to our Vanguard. Now he'll restand his 2 rear guards. And they gain 10k. So that's 40,000. We're going to have to perfect guard that one. Discard that Persona Ride. And we just need 5 to block that, so let's drop... we'll drop a Nucleate, I guess. Alright, so now we can Persona Ride. And let's see, I need to build a board. So let's call Carbra and use his skill to Counter Blast and Soul Blast. And we will check the top 3. And we find Sequana. So we'll Superior Call her back here. So we'll go ahead and use Skyfall Arm's Activate ability to discard one from our hand. So we'll drop Wayward Therapy. And we check the top 3 again. And we found Gust, so we'll add him to our hand. And the other 2 go to the bottom, unfortunately. But that also triggers Wayward Therapy Angel skill to let us Soul Blast again. And we can call her right back to our field. So we'll Superior Call her. And we'll put her right there. So let's see, we'll go ahead and call Schneisel as well. And use his skill to Counter Blast and check the top 5. And unfortunately, we don't find any Youthberks. So again, no card to our hand, but we do get the power. And we got to shuffle those triggers back into the deck. So I think we are good to go. So we will go ahead and attack with the Vanguard first. And he guards for 2 to pass. And there's 1, but I am not going to risk that, so I'm going to give both effects to Schneisel. Oh, I should have risked it. We got a heal too. But we get to heal 1, and I will give that power to Carbra. So now we can RevolDress once again. And this time, I think I will go into RevolForm Gust. So now we do want to make sure we resolve Sequana's skill first. So we put her to the soul. And gain a drive. And then we'll resolve Gust's ability as well. So we discard 1 from our hand. So we will drop that order, I guess. And he gains 10k and another drive. So now we're going to go ahead and attack with Schneisel. And his skill will give Gust an extra 5k. And he perfect guards. So now we can attack with Gust, who does have twin drive. Oh, and he's got to let it through. Oh, and we got a crit! So we'll give that crit to the Vanguard and the power to Carbra. And he's at 4, so that might be enough to finish him right there. And it gets a crit trigger. But he did not get a heal, so we got him with that one. Alright, so there you go. That was my Youthberk RevolDress deck. Very fun deck. I do like the way it plays. So I will be back soon with more deck profiles. I do believe next up I'll be doing my Leonorn deck. So until then, I guess that's all for this video. So lots of luck to you and yours.